Is this a good week to go to London for a Bears game? And also, who's going to pay for that trip?
All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to London to attract business to Chicago. Okay? I'm going to London to attract business in Chicago.
But are you going to the game?
Hold on a second. Because you already know the answer to that. But I just want to make sure that you do the people of Chicago service. Because I have to be very honest with you. It's pretty jacked up the way you framed that. Right. It is. It is. It's disrespectful and condescending that the black man is going to London for a game. It's disrespectful. It is. And people get away with that too much. The governor went to Tokyo. The governor went to Tokyo to attract business. The mayor of Chicago is going to London to attract business, and while I'm there, I'm going to root for the Chicago Bears.
That is so pitiful. Don't ask him any questions because he's a black man. You know, black men don't like to answer questions. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Shelly.
Well, first of all, mayors and governors, they do go to other countries. They have these sister city programs. Sure. I think it's a waste of money. I think it's like this taxpayer funded. It's just a way for them to get a free trip and write it off as a business expense for the city or the state, right? That's number one. Number two, again, he's effectuating this overly emotional response and, you know, it's jacked up the way you framed it. All she said was, are you going to Chicago to the Bears game? And I mean, over in London to the Bears game. Why do you have to go over to London to go to a Bears game? So, of course, they got to add all that in. Brandon Johnson reminds me of a mayor named Brandon Scott, right?
Is it the
Brandon Scott?
It's the Brandon.
And they are some overly emotional, I think a little unstable black men.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's a black man. Let's establish that right now. And you don't question. And he may just very much like the Chicago Bears. I mean, he is...
But the Bears aren't going to London. He is, right?
Well, he's going to London because they're going to London.
Right. Okay.
But I wonder if when they go, you know, play the Lions in Detroit, is he going to Detroit to attract people? Because that's more likely than people coming from London to come to Chicago. But what I think this new crop of young Democrat black men who are in power, what they have discerned is they scare people when they say that. How dare you ask me, a black man, a question? And then the press, who's scared to death to offend any black person, goes, oh crap, he's black, and I asked him a question.
Wait a minute, stop right there. So in other words, he's feeding into the media narrative that black people are dangerous. Because if the media are afraid, because he's a black man and that's scary. No, she's not. I'm saying that. I'm saying, so that's basically what he's doing. He is perpetrating the same media perception that black people are dangerous because the media are afraid now because he's this black man.
They're not afraid he's dangerous. They're afraid to offend.
Right.
Well, okay.
They're afraid that, you know what happens is someone speaks a modicum of truth. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, or maybe a little bit later on that night, people take to their keyboards and on X and they just light them up and they dig up, you know, the girl they poked in the eye in 3rd grade and she's blind and all this other foolishness. And so because they've created that culture of this big homogenous blob and we all have to be alike and we all have to think alike, except for the people who have melanin. They're a special class. They're protected, right? You can't criticize them. Let's criticize him. Let's criticize him. I was in Chicago like 2 months ago, and I'm gonna tell you, he needs somebody to criticize him. That city is absolutely beautiful. It is breathtaking, some of the architecture and the art that's there, but the crime, let me tell you.
Oh yeah, it's like, well, Baltimore now has surpassed it. Right. What were you saying, yeah?
And any public servant who is living off of taxpayers' money, like our money, should not have that kind of response to a journalist. She has the right to ask him that question.
Absolutely.
Because it's the people who are funding that trip. And we have the right to know if he is appropriating that money correctly. Right. So to have that kind of haughty response, like, how dare you ask that question? What is he? Why is he behaving like royalty and not like
because that's what they think they are.
Public servant?
We just said we have created a culture right now where you cannot ask black people questions. Right. You can't question them. You can't ask them about the truth. Look what happened with Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Yes.
Did you guys
God.
see
Oh my
Ta-Nehisi
gosh.
Coates was in? He wrote a book. He was in an interview. I believe it was on CBS. And a white man was pushing back against the thesis
Some of the
or the
premises,
theme
yes.
of the book.
Right.
And now they're saying, was he fired?
I don't
think
think
He
may-
was
but
let
so
go.
far he
Yeah, he was
wasn't.
let go.
He was let go. DeCooper.
I think he was let
Oh
go.
my gosh, they just did that then. That was
Yeah,
oh
it
my
was just
God.
recently. I
Yeah,
think
they
he
let
was
him go.
actually
That
let
was
go
today then. They
because
must have done
said
it today.
They didn't like the tenure or how he was speaking to Ta-Nehisi. I saw the whole interview. I think we're going to talk about it a little later. It was nothing wrong. He just asked him questions about a book.
You can't do that. I
No.
mean, and they made it a deal because this, I think his name is Tony DeCoople, I think.
Yeah.
He's Jewish, right?
Oh, okay.
Now, supposedly, these two, he and Ta-Nehisi, are friends as well. So they always have these kind of sparring debates, right? But because he did it on CBS, in these editorial standards, what, a journalist? This man is a journalist. A journalist cannot ask hard questions.
Nope, not anymore.
Can't challenge you on your own thesis. Yeah, again, nobody has to agree with it. All he's saying is, okay, defend what you wrote. That's it.
And we are at a disservice when this type of thing is allowed to happen.
Absolutely.
Because what happens, we don't get to the truth, and then these black politicians, like here in Baltimore, like in Chicago, like in Philadelphia, give their ass to us to kiss. And we are supposed to take it because no one will challenge them on what they're doing. And that leads me to what's going on in Chicago. Nicole, you had mentioned it. So there's a lot going on, and I want to take my time with this. The city of Chicago's public school system has been a state of educational collapse for decades now. Tons of debt while having increased amounts of money poured into the system. Same stuff that's happening here in Baltimore. And plummeting test scores of students. Same thing that's happening here in Baltimore. The responsibility for all this is due to failed policy of city leaders and the Chicago's Teachers Union, America's most infamously powerful and radical public sector union, local number one. Of course, we saw this name throughout the pandemic, Randy Weingarten.
Yep.
She's the National American Federation of Teachers. She runs it. On Friday afternoon, it became grimly clear what happens when a union is possible as the CTU manages to get one of its own lobbyists elected. So this guy, Brandon Johnson, was a former lobbyist for this teachers union.
Of course.
And so he won in a narrow victory. Right now, the union is renegotiating their contract with the city. And one of the demands is that the Chicago public schools, assuming $150 million of pension debt obligations for non-teachers in the CPS system. So this is at a time when the system is already overburdened, unprecedented $500 million budget shortfall. So, of course, when CEO Pedro Martinez, he's the CEO of public schools, refused to sign off on this, he doesn't agree with it, wanted him to take out to fund these demands. Johnson began publicly pressuring his own school board members to fire him. So what did these members do? They resigned. Good for them. So they resigned. So now Johnson has announced a replacement slate of school board appointees on Monday morning. 7 people, presumably selected for their greater responsiveness to his demands and this teachers union demands. The new board is almost certain to vote to fire Martinez, the current CEO, and the Chicago teachers unions will likely win everything that they are asking for.
And that's a couple things. That's why I was upset that they resigned, because as mayor of Chicago, he gets to appoint almost half the board. So he's going to appoint people who are going to side with him, number one. Number two, this school board in Chicago, and this is from an article called wirepoints.org. This was February of 24, this year. The education fail in Chicago. Not a single child tested proficiently in math in 67 Illinois schools. This is the whole statewide, and and for reading, it was 32 schools. So their schools are failing, their public schools are failing. This mayor wants to, pad up the pension for non-teachers.
Right.
What does that mean? That means the bureaucrats. That's the administrators. These are the people who are not even in the classrooms, but he wants to pad up their pension. And why? Because Chicago, pretty much like almost other major cities, have zero money. They spend everything they get from taxpayers, and they don't allocate and allot it to where it's supposed to go. So you wouldn't need $1 billion loan to pad up their pensions if the taxpayers' money was going where it's supposed to go. You wouldn't need that. You wouldn't need that if you have so many, if you didn't have so many bureaucrats and administrators with these huge salaries who are not even delivering the services to the students. You wouldn't need all of that. So now that these board members have resigned, to my dismay, he's going to, by law, by Chicago standards and law, he can appoint, I think, up to 10. I think he can appoint up to 10. So now he's going to appoint these people who are going to vote to fire the CEO, who is really taking a stand for the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I think when we think about the teachers union is probably a misnomer. They are really all about pouring money into the bureaucracy of schools. I have several friends that are teachers, and, you know, some of them are barely making it, but they do it because they love it. They love the children, and they want them to be better and know more and do more. The problems that we have is that our school systems are top heavy. You know, when you have multi-million-dollar superintendents and they couldn't pick 4 of their students out of a lineup, there's a problem.
Right.
So we're doing it upside down. And to right that ship, we have to stop electing school board members based on who the union says. I say this all the time, every election cycle we have in Maryland, stay away from them poison apple people. Stay away from them, because they're not looking out for the best interest of your children. They're looking out for the best interest of their members.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what unions do.
That's what they do.
And I'm not mad at them for it. I'm just saying, don't do it at the
Don't
cost
do it
of our
on
children.
taxpayers' dimes.
Right. Don't do it at the cost of our children. If we're going to raise, or put more money into the school system, that money should go to the teachers first. The people who actually spend their time educating our children, with our children, those are what I like to call, being in healthcare, our frontline people. You pay the front line well, and you don't have to worry about the top half.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, from what I know about teachers unions, and is that they are not helping. They're making things worse for the schools. They're not. Let's say there were situations where they don't even allow volunteers to come and work, because they would say, "Oh, that's taking away jobs from our people." You know, when parents want to come in to volunteer, they're not allowing parents to be involved in children's lives. So they're really actually enemies of the children who are there claiming to serve. So the education system in the public school system in the United States is so corrupt that this is what might be the reason why America might have a real crisis in the future, because the future generation is not getting what they should be getting from education, and I don't know what the future will hold.
Well, this is by design, folks.
Yeah.
And that was my next question, but I want to piggyback off of what you said. This is by design, because when you fail to educate the next generation, we have a generation of idiots. And they are more likely to do what they are told instead of critically think about what to do in this world. And so when you have people that are there to do what they're told, these are Democrats. These are the ones they use and abuse, and they can tell them who to vote for. And instead of them saying, well, wait a minute, this won't help my family. This won't help my community. This is actually going against that. No, I'll give you tickets to the next Beyonce concert.
That was Megan Thee Stallion.
Sexy Red and all that.
Sexy Red. You know, we give you some chicken and you pop them up on weed. You know, all these kids now doing weed. You know, fail to educate them. And this is the kind of electorate that they want. But my next question is to you all. So This is in Chicago, and we know this playbook. It's here in Baltimore. It's in Philadelphia. Should Republicans, should suburbanites, rural people care? It's not.
Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Oh,
absolutely. I want to follow up with my question, but similar to what you're saying, absolutely. Republicans, conservatives, suburbanites should care because it's still taxpayers' money, and a lot of suburban. No. They might not attend the schools in these urban areas, but it's still taxpayers' money. Number one, for that state, from that area is going to be spread around that whole state. Number two, the people that are being left open, if you will, not being taught. They're going to come in contact with these people. Don't think that because you live in suburbia or wherever that you have, fences. No, you're going to come in. You can't stay behind your fence every day. You're going to have to come out and talk to real people, interact with them. And these are the people that need, if you will, civilization. They need to be civilized, if you will. And I'm not saying that to mock them. I'm saying they need the civilization. They need the history. They need the lessons so that they can know how to interact and act in society even beyond their poor circumstances. So yes, we need to be in those areas. But my question is, how is it that we were able to, post-Reconstruction, have one-room schoolhouses with all ages of students? Maybe 2 books, if that. One teacher taught all these different subjects, and these people came out with an education. How were we able to do that then? But we can't do it with billions and billions of dollars being disseminated all across the country in public schools.
Well, family life. It was different.
Well, okay.
It was definitely different because back then, you act up in that one-room school if you want to. Whoever's daddy's walking by is taking care of that problem.
Right.
But I think to answer KJ's question, for people like me who live in a rural area and, a taxpayer here in the great state of Maryland, we talk about how many of our tax dollars get poured into Baltimore. And people grumble, Baltimore's sucking up all our tax dollars. It's not fair, that kind of thing. What I say to that is this. Yes, it's not fair, but understand, I would rather educate a child than imprison a man, right? So when you think about the long-term implications financially of what it's going to mean to police communities where people are, for lack of a better term, ignorant, right? They're culturalists. They don't have a place in our society, not because of anything they've done, but because we've failed them.
Yes.
We've absolutely failed them. So you see communities building like community schools, home schools, co-op schools, just to kind of make sure that their children are getting enough so that they can be productive citizens. But what happens when you come from a community that does that?
Right.
And you have, a Hillsdale school, a K through 12, where it's classic learning, and that's an amazing thing. Kids are reading 20, 30 books a year, and you have a child that comes from a situation where there was no teacher who cared, and they didn't read any books, and they had ghost students, half their class really wasn't there, but they got the tax dollars for it. There's a disparity that you can't fix.
Yes.
Right? It takes generations to fix that kind of thing. So it's on everybody to make sure that the teachers are getting what they need to teach our students. The problem that we have is the bureaucracy on the top is saying, well, yeah, of course you could do that, but give me my cut first, and whatever's left over can trickle down.
Yep.
That's the problem.
So also to answer your question about why suburbanites should care about cities is also cities have greater populations, and that's where a lot of the voters are. So when you look at a state that has a really largely populated city, and who do they generally vote for in the city? They're voting for Democrats because they've been trained, they've been conditioned, they were not educated properly, what we were just talking about. In New York, why New York State generally is blue is because of New York City.
Yes.
Not upstate.
Right.
So that is why anywhere in the country, we should worry about everyone in the entire country. And if our cities begin to thrive, then the states will thrive.
Yeah. And we do the same thing here in Maryland. PG County, Montgomery County, Baltimore City, those are the largest voting blocks where you find a lot of more urban or minorities, if you want to call them that. I don't call myself that. But nevertheless, they have a significant impact on the Maryland voting system. That's usually where you can predict if those cities are voting a certain way. That's how Maryland's going to go for the most part.
Yeah. But like I said at the top of this segment, we need to watch what they're doing here in Chicago. This is what Kamala Harris and the Democrats want to do across America. And I wrote it down because I really had to think about it. They throw taxpayer money at issues, knowing that it doesn't fix the problems that plague these areas. And when the problems continue, they cry racism. That's the first thing.
And they cry more money.
Right. And then they need more money. Right.
Exactly.
And all the while this is going on, the next thing they do is, this is a new thing they started doing. They changed the metrics that actually measure how these things are efficient. We see it with the crime. FBI stopped reporting the statistics. We see it with illegal immigration. We see it with the schools. They're changing how they're grading now.
Exactly.
These kids are still failing, but they have changed the metrics and measurements on how to measure whether or not they are achieving the goals. So this is what they do. They change the metrics. And then we see this again in the crime plans and all over the place. So it's a grift. This is an enormous grift of systemic proportions.
Agreed.
So if this woman gets into office, this brings us back to what we talked about earlier. Elon Musk is right. This may actually be the last election that we get, because this is what they're trying to do, and unfortunately, it's working.
I know.
It's working.
Well, it's working because this is not new, right? This thing has been happening for a very long time. You know, when you think about it, there was a book that came out maybe 10, 15 years ago where they talked about in education how there was a concerted push to put girls ahead of boys, right? So, you know, the way education happened changed. You had to sit still and be quiet. Well, little boys don't sit still. And they're definitely not quiet. But who does? Little girls. We sit down and, you know.
It's the feminization, really.
And that's what happened. So they kind of pushed little boys to the back of the room and grew what I like to call super chicks, right? So we've got these super chicks, and they've got PhDs and all this other foolishness. And the degree reference that comes along with that, and they assume these positions of power, but they really don't quite understand that it takes everybody to coalesce to actually be powerful. You may have all the trappings of power, but unless you have the hearts and can inspire the people that you're chosen to govern, are you really powerful? The answer to that question is no. I'm a big buff of history. I would love to see a Black woman president. I would love it to be Condoleezza Rice. I'm just putting that in the universe. She's my girl. You know she's my girl, right? I am all about pro-girl, go woman, but I'm more of an American than that.
Right.
What's best for this nation
should
not
Kamala
supersede all of this other foolishness. I'd love to see, you know, more lipstick in the White House. There's plenty of lipstick in the White House. We don't need that.
Wearing
And the candidate who is running, that shouldn't be his or her first thing that they say about themselves.
Exactly.
Right.
Is their race or gender. That is how they discredit themselves. I don't care who they are, what their race, what their gender, but if that's the first thing that they say when they are trying to promote themselves, that's how they discredit themselves right away.
Can I